24, your local election headquarters.
The original estimate was $2,000 to $3,000, and it comes back as $8,000. They tell you that it might be a day. They talked to me at lunchtime today that says that we need a decision by tomorrow morning or whether or not you're going to the second day. I mean, there's too much ambiguity for this process that is so important for all of us.
You know, it was a rough recount for Fresno City Council candidate Darren Miller. First of all, it cost him nearly $8,000. He was handcuffed when he refused to leave the building during lunch, and then in the end, the recount did not even give him the votes he needed. And that's first up for our panel here this week. Joining us, we got a good one, Fresno State political science professor Lisa Bryant. Always good to see you, Lisa.
Good to see you.
Thanks for being back here. Former Fresno City Councilman, downtown guru Craig Sharton. Craig, good to see you, sir.
Always great.
And local attorney, business owner, conservative Nathan Miller joining us here as well.
Thanks
Welcome,
for having
sir.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, here's the results of that recount, just between Darren Miller and Tate Hill. Craig, I'm going to leave
just
here.
leave me out of it.
I'm going to leave you out of this for a moment. So the initial primary, you know, it finished with Tate Hill 6 votes ahead of Miller, and in the recount, Miller lost 2 votes. Hill gained 4, so that gap then doubled to 12, and Tate Hill is moving on to November against Miguel Arias. Craig, you finished 4th.
Yes.
In this. It was a
and I was
close
not
primary.
handcuffed
No.
during any of this.
Yeah, you have that to say. I was the guy that wasn't handcuffed in the. I mean, we can attack this from a few different angles, but first of all, I'd just love to hear your reaction just to the race in general, because it being so close, it does show that every vote matters, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's still mind-boggling to me when you're looking at people getting hundreds of votes in a district that has 50,000 plus people in it. Which is an interesting strategy in and of itself. But aside from this thing about Darren at the end, who is a good guy, this was the most positive campaign that you've ever seen, with 7 people that were all campaigning, and it was mutual respect. People really got along with each other well. There was no negative campaigning at all. I really am proud of the people who are on the ballot in that district.
I think that's fair. Do you think that sticks around till November, though?
It'll be tough.
Yeah.
But I think the community needs to step in and say, this is our expectation.
I'm curious. I want to ask all 3 of you about this, but Craig, we can start with you on this. Is $8,000 too much for a one-day recount, just like I always had here? I mean, it is a lot of money.
I do think we need.
And should it be automatic? Should something like
there
this
should be some policy that says when it's that close, it's just something we do. Look, you know, we could argue about all of the different things about this country. Democracy is really what we are and what we stand for, and we don't budget for it. It's the smallest budget line item in the whole county, in the state, and the federal. We put very little resource into what we say is the most important pillar of our country.
Lisa, do you agree with that? What do you think about the recount? Should it be an automatic recount? Because right now there has to be, if you don't know, you have to request it, and then you have to foot the bill for it as well. Yes. And you don't know the bill until just before. You have to request it, then they give you the estimate bill, and then it ends up being a lot of money.
Right, yeah, California, 20 states and DC have an automatic recount legislation, policy. California doesn't, right? So even if it's tie here, you might have to pay for a recount or play a game of poker or whatever, however they choose to settle it.
That would be fun. If we could televise that.
I know, yeah. I'm a fan of automatic recounts. I think if it's within, you know, some states use 0.5%, some states use 1%. 6 votes would certainly qualify for either one of those. But, you know, if you want to be conservative, say, okay, if it's within 0.5%, we should have an automatic recount. There's an old saying from Tom Stoppard. He's an author and playwright. I don't know if you know him, but it says democracy is not in the voting, it's in the counting. Right? And so I think that you're speaking about democracy. I mean, if you go out and vote, but you know they're not being counted legitimately, or there's no way to verify how they're being counted, is that really democratic? Right?
And it's
so
interesting because Nathan, a lot of people are saying, oh, he's wasting his $8,000, what a waste. The vote changed six votes. He was down 6 votes. All the votes went the other way, but 6 votes changed in this thing.
No, so I think the recounts are good. I agree with Lisa. If it's within a certain parameter, you should have an automatic recount. If it's outside that parameter, then maybe he pays for it if he wants to do it again.
Right.
But I mean, it definitely shows there was some minor deficiencies with the difference in vote count.
And it just shows that local politics, that still has some drama in it, right?
Yeah.
People just think, oh, it's the president, it's the governor. Local politics has a lot of juice to it. People care.
Does, right. I mean, if they did it more often, I'd be interested to see how many times the outcome was different.
After a recount, if
Right.
we had more recounts?
Yeah, we had more recounts.
Yeah, it's
Well, that's local politics is where we see almost all ties. Nationwide, there's about 60 ties a year, and they're almost always like sheriff, city councilor, school board member, things like that. I mean, they're really close elections, so it really matters.
Craig, do you see yourself running for office again?
No, and even this time, I would say it was more of a philosophical thing than anything else.
Let me ask you guys about this. We're going to see the Secretary of State. He just gave the okay for a ballot measure to start collecting signatures that would repeal the current sanctuary policy in the state of California. Nathan, is this something that you think will gather up those signatures? No problem. This is for the 2020 ballot, by the way, so they got some time.
Right. No, I think it will. I think most people that I speak to generally disagree with the idea of a sanctuary state. I mean, regardless, sanctuary state or not, the federal government's going to come and enforce its immigration policies. But I think it'll probably get on the ballot, whether or not it passes. I don't know if California, if the pendulum is shifted to the other side yet, but I think this will be a good litmus test to determine whether or not it has.
Mm-hmm. There is an interesting thing that comes in this ballot measure, though, is that it does include a couple of other things. It takes a couple steps further, right? Like not just would it reverse the sanctuary state policies, but it would also mean that undocumented people who are here can't have driver's licenses, and you'd have to prove your citizenship if you wanted to register to vote. I wonder if when you make it more stringent like that, if maybe some Californians would be like, yeah, I'm with you. Oh, wait, what else are we doing? You know what I mean? Sometimes if they're adding maybe are they biting off more than what Californians are willing to chew? Lisa, what do you think?
I think it's hard when you add things together like that. The citizenship one should be scratched because the Supreme Court's already ruled on that with Kansas. But I think it's interesting because I think that the name sanctuary state is misleading to some people, thinking that like, oh, we're protecting all of these immigrants. It just means we're not putting state resources towards national enforcement, right? And so, I mean, that's really what the policy is. And I don't know, I think when you add all of these things on it, you actually sometimes get a bigger risk of losing on the ballot because people feel like you're trying to sneak things in. So I don't know. I don't make predictions 2 years out anymore. That's a lesson from 2016.
Right. Well, and the fact is that, you know, when you look at it being in 2020, then this gets on the ballot, there's entirely different dynamics going on, right, Craig? I mean, because, I mean, it'll be, you know, Donald Trump's going to be up for re-election. There's going to be a lot of his supporters, going to be a lot of people that really hate him that are going to be trying to vote him out. So there's going to be a lot of...
So that's where I enjoy not belonging to a political party, because to me this appears to be only gamesmanship and symbolism to whip up certain people to vote or not vote. It's all strategy. It really doesn't have anything to do with solving an immigration problem, need for reform, whatever. It's all just playing to the base human instinct.
So you don't think the reason why they're doing this is because they actually don't like this policy?
It doesn't even
like
matter. I mean, the sanctuary state thing doesn't even matter. That's even, you know, largely symbolic as it is. It's just a larger game, and both parties are equally guilty of playing it.
Nathan, I'll give you the last word on this.
Well, I mean, I think that it does matter a little bit in that it puts a label on California, a label that a lot of people don't appreciate, and it also incentivizes, like for example, the Oakland mayor when she did what she did. You know, for her, she probably thought she was protected, doing the right thing, or a sanctuary state. I'm going to do this. And in reality, she shouldn't have done that. And we should be doing everything we can to help enforce our immigration laws and help the federal government do it. If there's ones we don't agree with, then let's change the law.
Thanks very much, panel. Stick around because we got another segment with you guys coming up here in just a little bit. But coming up